There's that funky live guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday, live at 5 in the Blippy Network, Rumble X, YouTube. Check us out, subscribe. Type in iNewsWire Roy Bleckert. You'll see my nice, smiling, shining face. Lots of stuff coming up. Donald J. Trump signs the memorandum, I'll get it out, of understanding to end the Iraq war finally. Hopefully, we'll have that. And much, much more. We'll have some of the clips from the G Summit meeting in France, starring El Presidente number 47, DJT. Hit some of that. Mike Fertrell, embattled city manager of Riverside, and his wife, who was suing the city. He resigned as city manager effective in a month. Is on paid leave until then. We'll get into those juicy details here in a bit. The grifter campaign going on out here in California is absolutely beyond belief. Exclusive details of Gavin Newsom solicited $340 million in behested payments from special interests, filings reveal. We'll have Susan Shelley on at the bottom of the hour, hopefully. She's been reporting on this in Southern California News Group on this show on her Wednesday appearances for years. $340 million in behested payments. That's legal. Even if it's legal, it's legalized bribery. Oh, PG&E? Oh, you know, they're talking about X, Y, and Z. You know, we're in trouble over here because we burnt down half of California. We need help. Okay. Call me on line 2, says Gavin Newsom. You know, Jenny Pooh, my wife, has this little nonprofit rolling around. She could use some donations. You might even get a tax deduction off of them. Voila, donations come in. Legislation gets passed. It seems like this might be what the targets of this latest Department of Justice investigation probe is rolling out. But the California Post story, very juicy details, as they say. Gavin Newsom solicited $340 million vested payments from special interest filings reveal. Josh Cohen rolled this out. Gavin Newsom's proactive defense in the face of multiple federal investigations the governor announced. The probes, while accusing President Trump of lawfare and rampant corruption, is starting to draw pushback on social media as California leaders' own record has frequently raised questions of pay to play. Pay to play. Again, whether it's legal or not, even if it's legal, in my opinion, it's unethical. And again, it's legalized theft, legalized bribery. State records show Newsom has solicited more than $340 million in donations from wealthy donors and special interests, some of which received preferential treatment of millions of dollars in state contracts, while also taking pains to prop up the political activities of his wife, Jenny Pooh, Newsom. A review of state disclosure records shows Newsom has reported 1,325 behested payments totaling $347,405 since 2011 when he was serving as lieutenant governor. These payments legal under California law, but controversial if not illegal practice in some other states, are reported once they hit 5,000 from a single source in a calendar year, and they must be for a charitable, governmental, or legislative purpose. There's a Monterey Republican Party. Hey, Grot, please compile me a list of behest payments for Gavin Newsom and Jen Newsom, including linked nonprofits. What's the total amount in 5 years? Oh, it's okay. They're behest payments, as you see the picture. I mean, this stuff is Joe critical. It's okay. They're behested payments. You thought I was kidding when I said, you know, all of a sudden they kick the chairs, the lawn chairs on the patio of the $3.7 million mansion or the $9 million mansion. And Jenny Poo says, man, look at this. Some of the most fertile ground. This stuff, these brown paper bags grow all these green little pieces of paper. Maybe have Ben Franklin's picture on them. Who knows? Comparison, Newsom's gubernatorial predecessor, Jerry Moonbeam Brown, only solicited $35 million in behested payments from 2010 to 18, according to records from the Fair Political Practices Commission. This exploded in 2020. He's reported $226.5 million since 2020. A little over $100 million from 10 to 20 for 10 years. The last 6 years, we basically doubled that. The busiest stretches came during, what? The heart of the COVID con. $35.9 million in April, $33.9 million in May, $30 million in July, $38 million in September, $28 million in October. He worked the COVID con. The COVID con for about $120 million there in 1 year. Blue Shield gave $20 million donation in September 2020, and months later, Newsom awarded the insurer a $15 million no-bid contract to distribute the California vaccines. Since 2020, Newsom reported $330.7 million behested payments. The giving shifted from emergency response to climate programs, workforce initiatives, immigrant services, wildfire recovery, official state travel, California Partners Project, the nonprofit founded by Jenny Poo Newsom. Now you know why he called her first partner. That was to roll that, if it is an official, that unofficial nexus between Jenny Poo and the California Partners Project. The partner thing wasn't for you or me, or wasn't to, oh, the new age way we're going to review, or it's sexist to refer to, for the husband to refer to his wife, by wife. It was to blend that name. Oh, this stuff is going to get much deeper. We're going to cover this and much, much more on today's show. Oh, there we go. We did the Disappearing Act. some of the more shocking revelations, so I love that picture in the Post. It's okay, they're only behest payments. Holy Moses. As you roll this through, the decisions and the nexus between the money going to the nonprofit and then the legislation that benefits the companies that are doing the nonprofits. How many millions or hundreds of thousands or laundered money that's went through this thing? That is or not what he just got a $31,000 fine for not reporting millions in behested payments from the FPPC. We're going to cover this more when Susan Shelley gets in at the bottom of the hour. We've now passed a $356 billion budget, $7 billion above what NEWSOM, the record $349 billion. Of course, we're going to get more gas taxes, software tax, healthcare plan, business taxes, record-breaking budgets that's structurally imbalanced despite record numbers. Here is the Fox 40 report. To
vote on the state budget proposal any minute now. Passed the Senate earlier today. Fox 40's Riley Carroll joining us now live in studio with more. Riley.
Hey, Nikki, that deadline to pass a budget less than 2 hours away now at midnight. Democrats do hold a supermajority in the Assembly, so this is expected to pass, though they are still debating it right now as we speak. The budget agreement reached by Democratic leaders in the Assembly and Senate would reject or delay several of Governor Gavin Newsom's proposed cuts aimed at closing the state's budget shortfall.
I think that our priority as a legislature, and I know also for the governor, is to solve the problems we have in front of us now, and to also think about the problems that are coming in the future.
It's our fault for electing these dorks. Fixing what? Your record money and you're spending it. You're putting more money on the credit card even though you've got record amounts of money for all the superfluous BS crap that you're buying. What a moron.
The biggest difference is lawmakers would hold off on plan reductions to Medi-Cal and health care coverage impacting some immigrants, along with proposed cuts to in-home support services.
We are about to pass a budget that seemingly by definition is not balanced. We need as a critical review of programs to assess whether or not they're achieving what they're intended to achieve. Is it sustainable given increasing costs that we're experiencing?
The answer to all that is no, no, and no. It is structurally imbalanced. That means the deficits keep getting bigger till you crash the whole system. You got to be tougher on this stuff, not mealy mouth. Well, no, it's in the report. It's in the budget. It's from the Legislative Analyst's Office. Vaya caramba.
And the governor have largely pointed to actions out of Washington, saying H.R. 1 is forcing California to make tough decisions.
And we made some responsible decisions as we move forward to ensure that Californians don't feel and bear the brunt of what's already coming to us from the federal government.
But Senator Roger Nilo says H.R. 1 isn't having the kind of impact Democrats are describing.
What has been imposed by H.R. 1 is work or volunteer requirements for able-bodied adults without children. Those are not families. Could be couples, but primarily those are single people, able-bodied without children.
Lawmakers are also expected to take up the so-called Fair Share plan, which would require some of California's largest employers that don't offer health insurance to help pay into Medi-Cal.
54% of the people that are on a public health care system in our state have a full-time job. We are all forced to ask the question, what do we do about that?
But it's going to have to be justified.
That Nimrod probably wants single payer, all this other stuff. And Roger Nilo, he's supposed to be representing the center right, freedom, liberty types. He's got to get tougher on this. Start calling these morons out that are screwing us. More money is... If this corporations are bumping up their health care costs because with Obamacare and Medi-Cal, we're paying 3 times as much for half the service, then that's going to get passed on to all the goods and services we buy because the end consumer ultimately pays that money. It can't. I don't know that we can endure this much stupid. But it's possible. One thing Trump is doing is saying, and he put out on the X machine, hey, you want this FISA thing? Which I'm not necessarily red hot about. In fact, I hate it. Where they can spy on you. Okay, pass the Save America Act. Pass one-day voting, no mail-in ballots, less cheating. And I love that he pulled and said, okay, we're pulling this J whoever. We're putting Pulte in at DNI, Department of Intelligence. Screw you guys until you want to play ball. Now again, if we have to do this to get the Save America Act, then at least we got semi or more honest elections or more of a chance to get some people in there that are going to eliminate FISA and the spying and all that other crap. I mean, I wish I could wave the magic wand and, I mean, I'm sure I could fix all this stuff in less than 30 seconds. But the solution to this stuff is fairly simple. And in today's market, if this is where we're at, then we got to play the hand we're dealt with. So if we can get the Save America Act, if we have to endure, we're not giving up anything. We're still under FISA. Well, it's expired, so it's out. But I mean, we've been under it. You know, we've managed to survive it. And if we got to do that to get to the point where we can have some honest elections where we can get the people who really voted or who are eligible to vote as candidates a sniff of a chance. It was announced last night at the Riverside City Council meeting. City Manager Mike Futrell resigned. We ran the story yesterday and we picked up a little bit of his wife, Susan Freeman, who was suing the city. Him himself, who took a job in Pasadena, supposedly resigned, pulled that back. Oh, to pass Measure Z, the sales tax extension and 25% increase, which failed. Maybe Riverside. The city of Riverside residents maybe are starting to get it. But their city council is turning into a bigger clown show than the Moreno Valley clown show of all clown shows. This is in the Los Angeles Times. Riverside City Manager Mayor steps down amid turmoil in City Hall. Say it ain't so. It's by Alex Wigglesworth. Riverside City Manager Mike Futrell will step down July 5th, ending months of political upheaval. His exit follows a clash with the council letter accusing his wife of harassing employees, which she denies. He agreed to step down last night, and you had the gobbledygook of, oh, this and that. He's getting 9 months of salary walking out the door. Even though that's a big chunk of change, probably $200,000-300,000. Hey, if he gets rid of Susan Freeman, that right there would be money well spent. Assistant CM Edward Enriquez will serve as acting city manager while they look for a permanent replacement. Futrell's departure comes as Riverside officials face criticism over the city's handling of internal investigations about code enforcement, harassing. They rejected his pet sales tax increase and extension that the council all wanted. Good. I'm glad the River City residents stuffed it right up all their ass. The voters of Riverside clearly, we don't trust you with our dollars. You are not being fiscally responsible to us. Dan Hawksworth, co-chair of Affordable Housing Organizing Network of Riverside, pointed out that Riverside is under investigation from the state. You know, Futrell came in after the COVID con and precipitated that. Use the COVID con bucks to screw over Riverside. Well, we're increasing taxes and spending money like there's no tomorrow. But he also had to present a budget containing $18 million in cuts, citing slower revenue growth, rising payroll, pension, and other costs. Zelenka was preceded him for 5 years, and the good old John Russo, which we, with Jason Hunter, had a big hand in showing the door. Well documented that we had on the show that was back in 17 and 18. Then his wife started the whole, oh, you know, everybody, the city council is mean to me. After the whole Glendale fiasco. But that chapter's closed. River City, not only did they defeat the tax, now they don't have to worry about the tag team of Futrell and Freeman. So maybe there's some hope for the folks of River City. We will see. That will be, as they say, one for the record books. Maybe River City will get its rear end together. And they'll flip the script. Here's Donald J. at the G7 announcing the memorandum of understanding, ending the Iraq War, opening the Strait of Hormuz. Hopefully, here we go.
Agreement with Iran that achieves everything we set out to accomplish, everything and much more. Ending the current conflict, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and preventing Iran from ever obtaining a nuclear weapon. That's what it was all about. That was about 99%. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They can't develop it, buy it, They can never have a nuclear weapon.
So we'll see in the coming days how the agreement shakes out. On that, couple other interesting things El Presidente had to say. Here we go.
60% they're down, and now we're going to go and focus on the land. They come through Mexico. Mexico has lost control of their country. The cartels run Mexico, and it's sad. And the president's a very good woman, but she's a very scared woman.
30 seconds, 30 seconds.
So you heard that the cartels are running Mexico. We don't want to let that happen in the U.S. of A. As Jesse said, we'll be joining the Mighty Met KMAT here in a few seconds. Hopefully Susan Shelley will call in and we'll get her thoughts on the behested payments
5 seconds, and Susan's on the line.
of Gavin Newsom, $345 million.
IE Newswire Daily is on the air.
The following is a paid program. Views and claims expressed are those of the program producer and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
There's that funky slide guitar music that comes in every Monday through Friday, live at 5:30 in the Mighty Met 1490 AM, broadcasting all over the Inland Empire on the aforementioned AM band, joining our vast video audience in the Evil Epi Network. YouTube, check us out, subscribe, type in iNewsWire, subscribe, Roy Blecker, do all that good stuff. Man, River City junked city manager Mike Futrell and his wife, Susan Freeman, which is suing the city after a whole bunch of mismanaged moves. On top of that, trying to shove the Measure Z sales tax extension down River City's throat with a 25% increase. Good job, Riverside. You got rid of the embattled city manager and his, God, wife. And you defeated the tax. Maybe Riverside's got a chance here in the future. We shall see. Donald Trump signed the Memorandum of Understanding ending the Iraq War, opening the Strait of Hormuz. We'll look forward to reading exactly what that document says and getting into that here in the coming days. $355 billion budget passed by the Assembly, jumping up another $6 or $7 billion on top of what Gavin Newsom in record highs with a structural deficit. In good times, who the hell does that unless you're trying to run the state into insolvency, which it appears they're doing a good idea. But as we said, and we covered at the first part of the hour, Gavin Newsom, $345 million in behested payments since he's been lieutenant and governor of California. If I got it right, today it was released. He's paying a $31,000 fine for not reporting to the FPPC and others for this. It appears from this may have been the target of the Biden administration investigation that supposedly started in 2021 and the newer one started by Trump. But fortunate for us today, we have the famed editorial writer columnist from the Press Enterprise, San Bernardino Sun, Inland Daily Bulletin, Redlands Daily Facts. But more important to me, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association, Susan Shelley. Welcome to iNewsWire, Leroy.
Thank you, Roy. Great to be with you.
You've been on these airways writing about it for years, if not decades. Maybe, are we finally, hopefully, seeing the light, maybe something being done, $345 million in behested payments to Gavin Newsom or his whatever nonprofits or where he's directed it to, pay for play. I've just said it, whether it's legal or not, it's legalized bribery or criminal activity, take your pick, but it should not be allowed to happen, Susan Shelley.
Well, we really need to start teaching this in, I don't know, first and second grade, the way they teach recycling in first and second grade. A bribe means that the business came, or the union, or whoever has business before the state. A bribe means that the person came to the elected official and said, here's money to do what I want. Extortion is when the governor calls these people and says, give money as I direct to this person and this person. So behested payments, every first grader should learn in California, behested payments are extortion. Bribery is when the phone call originates from the business, and extortion is when the phone call originates from the governor. And as you said, the scandal is that it's legal. Behested payments means that the governor or any elected official in California, they all do it, not to that scale, it means that they asked for the money to be given to a governmental, legislative, or charitable purpose. And they're all very loosely defined. Which category do you suppose an inaugural festivities committee would be in?
It just, again, I gotta grab the roll of duct tape and wrap it around my head so it doesn't explode in these situations. Because, I mean, it's, what they're doing is just blatant. This is blatantly pay to play. I mean, he's asking for money, and what really looks like, this thing looks like it really exploded after the COVID con. I mean, he maybe took in $100 million from lieutenant governor the first couple of years, maybe $100 million. Looks like in the first year of COVID, he raked in over $100 million right there in 2020. Susan Shelley.
I think it's more than that. I think it might be $200 million for the COVID year. But what he would say is that he was helping the people of California by having these different organizations donate money that he could give out as prizes for people who were vaccinated, or extra spending for nurses and doctors and first responders, or something. He would say that he was calling on people to do their civic duty by donating to these wonderful things. The question is, did they get anything from him for following his direction to do this? And you can see that they did. There's an Indian casino that has been behested out of, I think, $2 million, $500,000 a year. And what did they get? Well, apparently they got a rival's casino shut down, or the permit for one, the application for one, quashed. Apparently that's what they got. And here's the other part of the scandal. What were they asked to donate to? Well, it was a charitable donation that Gavin Newsom asked them to make to his wife's nonprofit, to the California Partners Project. So $500,000 in one check goes to Jennifer Newsom's organization, and they write that down as a charitable contribution. And the purpose is to support the work of the California Partners Project. Exactly what is the work of the California Partners Project? Well, we don't know exactly. Money goes in, money goes out. There's a lot of partners in the Partners Project. The state of California is one of the partners in the Partners Project. It's so sketchy. And we see this all the time. There are tons of insurance companies that have been behested out of money, and they are obviously very regulated by the state government. They get big contracts to provide Medi-Cal services and other services from the state government. The state government's essentially in control of their businesses. So if the phone rings and it's the governor and he says, I really need you to donate $100,000 to my inaugural festivities committee, no is not the right answer. So they write the checks. And then what did he do with all the money that was donated to his two gubernatorial inaugural festivities committees? He had a lot left over. So he gave it to another nonprofit, the California Protocol Foundation. Well, what do? They pay for his high-profile overseas trips where he looks like a presidential candidate. They pay for that. with the money that they got from the inaugural festivity committee, which was behested out of unions, businesses, everybody who has business before the state, who gave money for the festivities, is paying for his really non-governmental purpose of running for office. And it's not charitable. It's just machine politics at a very high level. Lots of money involved. And this is just, as you said, it's just pay to play, totally unethical. Whether it's illegal or not, it's legal in California. I don't know what they did with the money that might have made it illegal under federal law. Maybe there's a tax return that's missing a number, but we'll find out.
That's what I was wondering, or my thought was, if the Department of Justice, the Federal Department of Justice is looking at it, well, yeah, this might be legal under California law, but if you are breaking the federal law, there's nothing the state of California can do for you. You know, Rob Bonta can't help you out in this situation. And what's really telling about this is, and we never got a clear answer of why the Biden administration back in 21, right after this 100 million or 200 million of behested payments all of a sudden started coming into him after the COVID con money started flowing. Why is the Biden administration investigating him specifically of that? You know, he can holler about Trump all he wants. That was the Joe Biden administration. I got to say that there's got to be some sort of link between all this, Susan Shelley.
Well, it sure is. There sure are a lot of federal investigations. We have the mayor of Oakland, Sheng Tao, who's going on trial, I think, in October, and several of the big donors with her were also big donors to Rob Bonta, our attorney general, who's supposed to be enforcing the laws, not being charged under them. And he spent $500,000 of campaign money on criminal defense lawyers, apparently to help him respond to federal document requests. Now, he says he's not a target of that investigation. Well, maybe that's so, but he might be a target of a different investigation. And even so, just having to spend $500,000 responding to inquiries from the FBI about a criminal investigation is not a good look for the top law enforcement officer in the state of California. Very corrupt. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but the L.A. County Sheriff, the former Sheriff Alex Villanueva, dug up a ton of stuff on a former County Board of Supervisors member, Sheila Kuehl, and was investigating and executed a search warrant. And Rob Bonta's office picked up the phone and said, you must cease and desist immediately. You must send everything you have, every bit of evidence, up here to me, and I'll take it over. And guess what happened? He closed it without anything. So there's no evidence. Well, there was tons of evidence. That's why he shut it down. It's so corrupt. It boggles the mind. It's too much plot for one movie.
I also heard today, I don't know, we'll see how this rolls out. I think it don't quote me on it, but I think it was Carl DeMaio. There's even more nexus. Now there's a nexus between not only Rob Bonta and Sheng Tao and the Dongs, but there might be a nexus in this whole thing, even linking Gavin Newsom. But, these things can get so entanglated and they can move it through so many different shell companies and nonprofits that turn the money into payments to profit companies that roll it around. And by the time, especially back in the old days, by the time you would figure it all out, the statute of limitations were rolling out now. But I will say this, and I'm not a big fan of all this electronic, cash and stuff and swipe your card and stuff. But the thing of it is, in today's world, is, man, you can just go, or, the Federal Department of Justice can start going ding, 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 ding. And in 10 or 15 minutes, they got a paper trail that might have took them years before on financial transactions to dig and put together, Susan Shelley.
Oh, you're 100% right about that. And they're just changing the rules now in the Treasury Department about looking at the donors to foundations to see what they can see about that, because foundations have been used as a way of concealing dark money transactions. So if they have the suspicious activity reports from the banks and they get into what's inside those foundations, and they dig into all of these disclosed extortion payments in California, the behested payments. And what about Javier Becerra and the former chief of staff, Dana Williamson of Gavin Newsom? What about that with 3 guilty pleas in that case? By the way, there was a comment made, which I just looked up, by someone in the Justice Department, one of the U.S. Attorney's spokespeople, I think, and what she said is no one in the governor's race, no candidate for governor is implicated in any of our charging documents. And if you dig into that, there's 2 interesting things there. One is that she didn't say nobody in the governor's office wasn't implicated. That's the first thing. So it could be Newsom who's implicated by Dana Williamson. And the second thing is that she said it wasn't in any of their charging documents, but that doesn't exclude it being somewhere else in the file. So I don't think we've heard the end of the Javier Becerra scandal with that dummy zombie account that he had that they were drifting off of, those 3 people. I don't think we've heard the end of that. And I don't think we've heard the end of Mrs. Gavin Newsom, who's doing her best Hillary Clinton impression, and Gavin Newsom doing the best Bill Clinton impression. Stay away from my wife. For goodness sake, they have 2 mansions, and they don't have the income to explain where they came from. Somebody should be investigating.
I would say, and too, ever since the whole Dana the Hammer Williamson, Sean McCluskey, Javier Baccaria deal of that has rolled out, and it's been, part of it was Becerra, when he was at HHS under the Biden administration, was saying, hey, I'm going to run for governor. Well, who would you want help from if you want to get Gavin Newsom support or his guys that he's been getting these behest payments to get campaign contributions? Who would you try to work through? Dana the Hammer Williamson, Newsom's chief of staff, with all the stuff that they want, with all the game playing. And I don't care what they say. I don't care who says it. I cannot believe Baccaria especially, and probably Gavin Newsom, did not know what the heck was going on with that whole McCluskey Hammer, the Williamson thing. And on top of all this other skullduggery going around, it's beyond the pale sometimes of that. Switching gears and stuff, for your columns of the week, election integrity is a choice. California chooses to have less. Susan Shelley.
Yes, I've had just about as much as I can take of Democrats saying, as soon as someone raises a question about election integrity, why, that's a conspiracy theory. That's a MAGA conspiracy theory. You don't have any right to say that. You don't have any evidence. I'm pretty tired of that. So I did a little research, and I found, guess who vetoed a ballot harvesting law? Ray Davis. Guess who else vetoed a ballot harvesting law? Arnold Schwarzenegger. Guess who signed it on his way out the door? Jerry Brown. Jerry Brown left us with this ballot harvesting law. That was in 2016. It was used in an election for the first time in 2018. So it's not all that long that we've been doing this nonsense, where people can go pick up other people's ballots. In 2001, it was the law that if you were a vote by mail voter, you had to return your own ballot. You had to mail it yourself, or you had to deliver it yourself. It was illegal unless you were ill or disabled. It was illegal to give your ballot to someone else to be returned. That was the law in 2001. And Gray Davis said that was an important safeguard and should not be given up. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger was presented with similar laws, and they've been picking at little pieces of it here and there. All right, well, we'll just allow more people, more household members instead of just family members. Little changes like that. It comes to Arnold Schwarzenegger's desk to allow anyone to pick up a ballot, and he vetoes it. And he says the possibility of fraud is just too great. And even though they're asking people to sign a registry of who's returning their ballot, it's not enough. Because, in his words, bad actors could abuse the process. And who would know more about what's never mind that. So this is the problem. We have this relatively new law, which has been it's a giant vulnerability in election security that was widened in 2020 because first they allowed ballot harvesting and then they sent a mail ballot to everybody. And then they took a law that said you had to have your ballot returned by Election Day. And they changed it to 3 days after Election Day. And then in 2020, they made it 21 days after Election Day. And then they changed it and made it permanent, because that was for the emergency. They made it permanent 7 days. So now you have a situation where people can pick up ballots, have them delivered to the county with no date, no postmark date, can have a handwritten date on the envelope, and they can accept those ballots they have to accept those ballots for 7 days after the election. Is it any wonder that we have elections that are flipping 4 days after the polls close? I don't think it's a coincidence.
It's not. Hopefully we get the Save America Act. Trump's putting the pressure on it. I think hopefully that will do a lot to skirt the California law, at least on federal elections. They might still be able to do it on that, but I don't think they'll be able to do the ballot harvesting. Trump's putting the pressure on Thune, saying, hey, you want this FISA thing back on? Pass the Save America Act so we get, we can clean up these elections. Which I don't like the spying. I wish FISA would expire. But if we have to trade that to get honest elections where we can get some center-right freedom and liberty types actually elected to take care of things like FISA and stuff, because, well, look at it, we survived FISA. We're not in any worse shape by extending it. If we get the Save America Act, politics is politics. If we got to trade that off to get this part done, what's the flaw in my strategy, Susan Shelley?
No, that would be okay with me. We do have to have election integrity. If we don't have election integrity, then we are just going to be living under tyranny and political machines forever. And, we've had our lovely experiment in California on how that works out, and it doesn't work out very well. And all it does is raise taxes and restrict freedom, and we really need our elections back.
Switching gears again, your other column this week, the $216 million Hail Mary Tom Steyer's climate bet failed, Susan Shelley.
Well, we've talked about this before. I really think that what Tom Steyer was doing was not based on ego or vanity or because he wanted to hear trumpets play when he walked into the room. I think he has a giant portfolio of climate investments, and they fail unless there are state mandates and subsidies and bans and penalties to force people to buy those products and services. I think he's heavily invested in stuff that will only do well if somebody who believes in climate alarmism is in the governor's office. And really, it looks to me like politicians are starting to back away because of the affordability problem. So if climate alarmism goes away in a panic about affordability, then his whole business that has made him so rich could put him in the poorhouse overnight. So I think he ran for office and invested $216 million in order to get into power and maintain climate alarmism from the governor's office. That's my guess. But Steve Hilton beat him out, and Steve Hilton, of course, campaigned on abundance and oil production and lowering gasoline costs by getting rid of the climate regulations that don't do any good. So this seems to me to be a bad bet that he made.
That may be the understatement of all of recorded human history. $216 million down, down the drain. This guy spent, between his other presidential run a few years ago and this, over $500 million in failed, in failed office seeking of that. I don't know. I don't know anybody. This is even more than Meg Whitman, in her failed governor's race. And at least she got to the general election. This guy never got, he never got out of the primaries in the presidential, didn't get out of the primaries or whatever, the jungle primary here in California. If there's one saving grace in this, it's that, hey, you can't buy, there is a point where you can't buy an election, Susan Shelley.
Well, he wasn't a very good candidate. It's harder than it looks to be a good candidate. A lot of people think, well, Trump was a billionaire. Trump got himself elected. All it takes is $1 billion. Trump has a lot going for him. He was the star of a television show that was #1 for 14 seasons. And if you think that's easy, try it sometime. It's a very tough business. So, you know, he had charisma. He had an ability with the camera and an understanding of what the audience was responding to, which translates very nicely to politics. Whereas being an investment banker and hanging out with financier types in the climate space, that does not translate very well to being a candidate.
Trump, hands down the best showman president we've had so far. Got about a minute left. Tell them why they should join Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. Go.
Well, it's a very exciting year at the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association. We have a very important initiative on the November ballot. Very important. It's going to save Prop 13. It's going to make it harder to raise your taxes. It's called the Local Taxpayer Protection Act to save Prop 13, and you can find more information about it at saveprop13.com. But before you do that, become a member of the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and help fight for taxpayers. It's only $15 a year. We will keep you informed of everything that's going on with your money. HJTA.org is the website, HJTA.org. Looking forward to having you join us as a member at the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association.
Thanks for being on, Susan. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks so much, Roy.
Susan Shelley, Vice President of Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association and columnist extraordinaire for the Southern California News Group. Man, again, what a day on this Hump Day Wednesday. We'll see. We'll break down. Hopefully we'll get some more direction either today or tomorrow on the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Iran and the U.S. Hopefully. I just drove by the Win-Win Donuts and gas station here in the corner today, and diesel went below $6.99 a gallon already, and the price of barrel oil is down to 75. Well, it was 65 before we started. So let's get these gas prices down. They should be dropping $1 a gallon here within the next week or two. And not a moment too soon. We got midterms to work on, the November elections. There's still a few primaries, I think, to go, but most of them are done. We got the redistricting of the congressional seats. Gives the center right, freedom, liberty types a little more chance of holding the House. The prospects of holding the Senate are that. We're going to have digger deep in the well, I think, to turn the candidates around, like Steve Hilton for governor, Michael Gates for attorney general, Ed Delgado, assembly, Herb Morgan for controller on effing California, and the list goes on. But it's going to be a steep climb, but hey, this, like I say, you can't play the poker hand you wish. You got to play the poker hand you're dealt. So it's going to be a rockin' and rollin' time. Hopefully these DOJ investigations on Newsom will open up. Hopefully it starts shedding some light on what I believe are some very sketchy, if not illegal, practices by Javier Baccaria and Corey Jackson and a lot of others in between. But we shall see how it all works out. It's going to be a very exciting 4 or 5 months up to election time. But we will see how it all works out. That'll do it for today. We usually say at this time, mandatory, you're back here in 23 hours. Why? You're the best darn show in the whole wide world. Till then, see ya.
All right, I will talk to you tomorrow.
Have you watched the YouTube for whatever it's doing? Even when it's doing that, the resolution's bumped way up. I mean, the whole page is almost my face.
Yeah, it seems to be like auto tracking.
Something, yeah, it's some sort, one of those goofy systems in there that way beyond my capability.
Yeah, I've been looking into it. I'll probably try and stop by on Friday.
You got it.
All right, talk to you later.